You're listening to the Battle Buddies podcast. We have this shelter, this roof that is our ignorance of our ignorance, right? Which is, the competence ladder. That's right. Unconscious incompetence.
That's right.
And when you remove that, now they are prey to the elements that are ignorance, and they can feel those, and that doesn't feel good.
No,
so
that's
people
terrible.
want to feel like they are not ignorant, and so they'll do whatever they can. I'm sure you've experienced this as well.
Absolutely.
And I've met a lot of people who are quote unquote masters at their craft, who are self-proclaimed and don't work hard, and those are the people who, if you try to show them something new, they say, I don't need to learn that. I already know what I need to know. And
right.
it's such a devastatingly stagnant place. And I know, sort of going back, and you don't have to talk about this in depth if you don't want to, but going back to part of the reason why you left your previous location, I know when we talked about it before, you mentioned stagnancy as one of the big driving forces, because stagnancy is really regression, is what it is.
I agree. Yeah, and I refuse to be stagnant on most things in my life. I try to push forward. I mean, you can't fight every war at once, right? Like, I look at life as a battlefield, and there's several fronts of the war. Which front am I going to advance today?
Yeah.
I have to pick what I'm advancing right now. So I'm always advancing in my martial arts, and I know for sure that the place that I previously was at was not doing so. And so I had every intention of helping it to do so. I will not name the previous organization because I don't want to dunk on anyone's, if it helped them, great. It helped me for a while, but I will tell you that they had a book that told you how to teach each belt level, and you had to follow it in its 10-week plan, and then it would recycle, and you do it again, and you do it again. And I know that Mary, who also was a part of that previous organization, she told me that she ran into somebody else who was a part of that and was still a part of it. And Mary was laughing about the book, and that person told her that book still exists. That book, they're still teaching out of it. And I was man, this is, this is a decade later. Yeah. How is it that hasn't changed? You have to advance. You have to change. You have to improve, because the world is changing and advancing all around us at all times. Yeah. So yes, I left because they had the boss had anointed me to take over at some point. He, in the future that was undetermined, and he said, "I want you to be able to take it over." And so I started making plans to, make myself better and make the organization better, and make the martial arts better. And then the 2008 financial crisis hit, and he said to me about 2009, he's like, "I'm gonna take over your classes, because I have to continue going," which I now do not begrudge him, because I understand the money aspect, but those were my classes. He was not involved in them. He didn't do anything other than test people to move up to, the higher belts. And I was fascinated that he felt entitled to take them over, but it was his business, so he could. Yeah. So anyway, when he dropped that on me, I went to my wife and I said, "Here's what he said. What should I do?" She said, "You should talk to Cliff, your mentor, who's he was my pastor, but also my boss in ministry at the time." Mm-hmm. And so he told me, "So why don't you just open your own business?" Backtrack for a second here. Let's pause and do an aside. Sandy, my wife, had told me to start my own business long before this. She didn't like the previous organization.
See, I never knew that.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why she's the 51% owner of
enough.
the Max Academy. So, she told me to do this a long time ago, but it wasn't until Cliff told me to do it and confirmed what she said that I really started taking it seriously. And I was in business school at the time, and I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do both of these things, and I somehow managed it. And we also were adopting at the same time, so it was really hard. But
I forgot that was at that time. Wow.
Yeah. So we had just bought a house in 2009. At the end of 2009, beginning of 2010, and he drops this bomb on me like, "I'm going to take over your classes." And I said, "Well, when is that happening? Because I got to make a plan. I don't think I'll be able to stay here." And so I made a plan to start a business, and I put it together in a couple of months, just 2 months, and we were ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard, but I learned a lot, and it didn't make enough money for us to live off of for maybe 5 year.
Yeah.
And so Sandy had to work a lot up until about 2015, and then she was able to start de-escalating her commitment to her job and start going to school, and now she's a graduate of Berkeley.
Yeah,
and you
let's
know,
go.
like life is so weird.
It's pretty crazy.
It's great. It's just so weird, and I wish that we could have avoided some of the suffering, but the suffering defines us. It makes us realize who we are and what we're made of. Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing of your faith can develop endurance.
Yeah.